150 horas, 150 horas. Estoy soñando en español. 150 horas, 150 horas. Ahora es nivel 3. It's time to talk about getting to 150 hours. Let's talk about dreaming Spanish now. 150 horas.
Here I am at the park, a beautiful park, and I am going to talk today about 150 hours of Dreaming Spanish milestone that I just finished up on the last day of April. And I've waited a few days to do this so I can think about what I want to say. Of course, if you don't know what Dreaming Spanish is, you should definitely check out my other video where I talk about my 100 hours. That will help you understand kind of where I'm coming from, what my background with Spanish is, and what this whole method's about. TLDR of Dreaming Spanish. It's basically an approach to language acquisition that focuses on comprehensible input. And in my case, I'm mostly using input through the Dreaming Spanish website. It costs like $8 a month. It's pretty cheap. But they have a lot of really good materials, especially for the lower levels. And plus it does tracking of your hours, which is really helpful. And on that system, 150 hours is the start of level 3. It goes 50 hours for level 1, 100 hours for level 2, 150 for level 3, 3, 6, 1,000, 1,500. And it's also worth mentioning that the focus of the system is on input, not on output. You're not encouraged to actually use Spanish until it comes out naturally as a result of the acquisition or the input. Kind of like how a child just starts speaking one day, kind of putting words together and stuff, which typically is around level 6, around 1,000 hours or so. People usually start to be able to use the language pretty well. Okay, so with all that preliminary stuff out of the way, let's get to the juicy stuff. So first, how long did it take me to go from 100 to 150 hours? It basically took almost exactly 2 months. Now, I wasn't exactly fully consistent with it. I missed I think 6 days over those 2 months, but I averaged around a little under an hour per day. And some days I did way more, some days I did over 2 hours, but most of the time I was right in that hour range. So what did I use for my input? Primarily I used Dreaming Spanish, especially in the beginning. What I did is I filtered it by easy level. I took all the beginner, super beginner, intermediate lessons, and I ordered them based off of how easy they were. So I went through all the easiest ones first. I got up to there's a little rating system in there, and it's around a 17 is I think where I'm at. Hi there. How you doing? What's up? Hi. Hi. So after I got up to around level 15, 16 of easiness, I got through all the really simple stuff. I kind of started to curate my selection a little bit more. And I did it based off of a few things. One was the country of origin of the speaker. I tended to focus more on Mexican, Colombian, Argentinian Spanish. Spanish from Spain is a little harder for me to understand. And it's just I'm not used to hearing it. I'm in the US. I tend to hear more Central and South American Spanish, Mexican Spanish. And I'm on the West Coast, so I don't really hear too much like Puerto Rican, Dominican Spanish. Mexican, Colombian, that tends to be a little easier for me. And I tend to watch more of the beginner and intermediate level now. I was watching a lot of super beginner to start with, but those are a little bit too easy for me at this point. So I'm focusing on beginner and intermediate levels. So outside of Dreaming Spanish, I've been supplementing by watching sitcoms on Netflix and ones that have Latin American Spanish dubbing. Because it's a sitcom that I'm familiar with, The Good Place, El Lugar Bueno, I think it's called in Spanish. I'm really familiar with the story because I've watched that series a couple times. Language is pretty easy to understand, and so I'm able to comprehend a fair amount of it. Whereas with Dreaming Spanish, I can comprehend probably 90 to 95% of what I'm watching. With Good Place, I'm probably around 85, 80%, depends on the episode. But I can understand, I laugh along with it. It's actually pretty funny in Spanish too. I tend to start my input acquisition with Dreaming Spanish in the beginning of the day. If it gets to be a little rote or not as interesting or boring or I get tired of it, then I'll switch over to The Good Place. I can get an episode of that. It's 22 minutes of input, and I can get through that whole thing pretty quickly. Well, 22 minutes, but it feels faster. And then I've got almost a full hour at that point, and then I just get to my hour. I maybe watch another episode or fill in some more Dreaming Spanish. And as of right now, I'm like on episode 3 of season 4, which is, it's only 4 seasons long. I think that's 44 episodes in total I'm at. Getting close to the end of it, and probably what I'll do, I really like Michael Schur's sitcoms. He did The Office, Parks and Rec, The Good Place. I'll probably go maybe to The Office or Parks and Rec after this because I'm familiar with those as well, and that's all really good kind of typical daily vocabulary that I would want to learn. Or I might get into into some anime, maybe an anime I've already watched before, like Dragon Ball or Naruto or something like that. I did also experiment with some crosstalk with ChatGPT, not a ton, maybe not even an hour total over the 2 months, but every once in a while I'll put it on. It's hard to do in a public space. Like I don't think I'd do it here, but I can do it like when I'm in a car or something like that, just having a conversation on a random topic. So next question, did I notice any change in my Spanish level between hours 100 to 150? And I would say yes, I did. It's interesting, when I started this whole thing, I thought my level would increase at a faster rate than it really is. I'm not sure why, because that's not how we really learn. We don't learn like suddenly I'm fluent, but it's a gradual process, right? I think what I've been surprised at is how subtle the progress is. You'll do the work an hour or two a day, and then suddenly after a month or so, you're like, wait a second, I can understand stuff I couldn't understand before. And you can't really put your finger on it specifically, but you can just tell, wait, I know more than I knew before. And it's not because I studied vocabulary, because I haven't been studying. I've just been watching stuff and I'm learning. And it's really weird and it's kind of bizarre and it feels a little like cheating, but you're not cheating. But it's also really motivating because I know, I'm going to actually learn Spanish this way. This method isn't fast. It's not overnight. You could probably bum rush this whole thing and try and do like 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day over the course of like 3 or 4 months and get up to that higher levels. But I kind of like doing this kind of more organic method of 1 or 2 hours a day. That feels a little better to me. Plus it's more sustainable. I work like a job and a half. So this helps me kind of pace it out over time. And it's just nice to know or feel confident that, I will actually become fluent in Spanish if I keep this up. It's just consistency. That's all I have to do is just be consistent with it and it will happen. It's just the natural progression of what I'm doing. The next question is, have I been outputting Spanish? And as I mentioned before, output's not really focused on for this early stage of this program. I'm only at 150 hours, so I'm really not supposed to be outputting at all. But there have been times where Spanish has come out. And there's 2 situations where this has happened. One is that I go to a place where they speak Spanish, like Mi Favorita restaurant in Tulsa. The people who work there don't speak English, or at least the person I talk to doesn't speak English. So I speak to her in Spanish when I'm ordering or just chatting and stuff. I would say that's most of my Spanish output is going to that restaurant. It's good food though. It's good and cheap, so I don't mind. But that's a situation where I don't really have a choice. The other times I've been outputting is involuntarily, which sounds weird, but let me explain. Sometimes I will just start like thinking of phrases or how to express my ideas in Spanish without really intending to, like, I'm not trying to translate. I just, hey, I want to say this, and I just start to think about how I would say it in Spanish. For the most part, I can do that with a lot of topics. I would not have been able to do that with a couple months ago. Like, beginning of the year, I could not have done that with some of the things I want to be able to say now. Vocabulary is definitely improving, and my ability to phrase or to say things is definitely improving too, which is really weird. Like I said, it's kind of bizarre, but it's kind of cool at the same time. So I'm not really outputting, not intentionally. It just, if I have to say something, I'll say it, but I don't try to go out of my way of practicing speaking with anyone. So next question, has my approach changed now that I'm at level 3? And I would say no. You can kind of tell that I'm kind of committed to this path right now, so I don't plan on changing it up at all. I'm going to keep going with the way that I've been doing things so far. I still have about an hour a day as my goal, and to get to the next level of 300 hours, that's about 3 or 4 months of work. I think I can increase that, especially as my comprehension improves. I'll probably start putting in more sitcoms or TV shows into there, and that will really boost things up quite a bit. You know, it's interesting because while I'm here right now, I'm in San Francisco, if you couldn't tell. Actually, let me show you this view. It's fantastic. I'm next to the Painted Ladies. You know that park that's in Full House? I'm just on the other side of the hill. That's right over here. Looking at the houses over there, but I'm looking towards downtown right now. Pantown's over there. Hayes Valley's right here. So I'm just, Nob Hill is right over there. I used to live right over here. I can see Transamerica Pyramid Tower over there. Anyway, off topic. While I've been here in San Francisco, I watch TV with my mom, and we've been watching this Japanese shows. We watched Samurai Gourmet, and then we just been watching this new show called Hotspot, which is a really cute show. The Japanese is great for input, and so probably got several hours worth of input just from watching Japanese content with my mom all the time, which is really cool. I'm noticing my comprehension improving there too. So I'm getting both Japanese and Spanish in right now. But like I said, probably more input will be on popular media, TV shows, anime maybe, and that will increase my hours. So if I can get in 2 hours a day, that'd be fantastic, because then I can increase the amount of time to get to that 300-hour level. But that then begs the question, what are my goals with this? These are my upcoming goals with this. And right now, looks like there's a good chance that Ruhi and I will be going to Ecuador at the end of October, the second half of October. And if that's the case, I would like to get myself to a better level before then. I don't want to pressure myself or rush myself, but I think if I can really try and make an effort to get as far as I can between now and then, 5 months from now, if I can get as far as I can in 5 months, I can definitely get to that 300-hour level, maybe even 400 or 500 hours. I think by that point, my comprehension will really be much better. So I'd like to make it a stretch goal, which is like a goal that's a little beyond what you can do, to get to maybe 600-hour level by that time. I don't think I'll get there, but I think if it's a good stretch goal, I'll at least probably get to like 400 or 500 hours, which would be fantastic. So, of course, the big question is, am I going to continue with Dreaming Spanish? Definitely, you can tell I'm going to. That's not a surprise. I'm not shocking anyone with that, because I can see the progress is happening slowly, but I kind of appreciate that, actually. It makes me feel like it's an organic, natural process that's going to stay with me. And I would say my long-term goal with Dreaming Spanish is to get to that 1,500 hours, level 7. Once I get there, I'll reevaluate, but that's sort of my current goal. Maybe by the end of, 2026, I'll get there. Definitely not this year, but maybe by the end of next year, I can get there. But I've really been enjoying the process, and it's amazing to think how I could do this for other languages too. Like I could go back to my Japanese and go back to my Mandarin Chinese, which again, I never really studied. I mentioned that before formally. Japanese I did early on. At this point, I could just consume a ton of content in those languages, and I think that would really help me a lot. I've never been one who wants to be like, know every kanji or know like every vocabulary word. I just want to be able to communicate effectively, get my point across, understand what people are saying. That's really all I care about. I don't care about being able to read classic literature or know every book out there kind of thing. So I'm basically aiming to be functionally fluent but completely illiterate. Does that make sense? At least in Japanese and Chinese. I also think that if I was functionally fluent in those languages, then learning the characters and learning how to read and write would be way more interesting, because I could talk about the meaning of things and you get that comprehension. Just like when a kid goes to school and they learn things about characters in China, they're not learning it as they're learning how to speak the language. They already know how to speak the language, then they learn how to read and write the language. Same with English, right? When we learn the alphabet, we already know how to speak. I think I'm going to take that approach in the future. If I want to learn how to read and write, then I'm going to learn how to speak first. And it'd be cool. Maybe every 5 years I take a different language approach for input. Now it's Spanish. Maybe it'll be Portuguese, or maybe Tagalog, or maybe French or German, or I don't know, Swahili, whatever. It'll be something interesting. But at least for right now, this year, next year, and maybe a little beyond that, will be Spanish focused. And then I think after Spanish, I may go back to Japanese, Chinese, and then kind of get those up to a higher level where I feel more confident with them. I'm conversationally okay, but I'm not fluent by any means. But that's where I am, and that's Dreaming Spanish, 150 hours. Really happy I made it. I got it within the 2 months I was kind of aiming for. It's been fantastic. So if you have any questions, or you're doing Dreaming Spanish yourself, or you want to give me a pat on the back for getting this far so far, which has been great. That's nice. Why don't put that in the video? That's silly. I don't need a pat on the back. And if you've enjoyed watching these dogs play behind me, then give me a thumbs up, I guess. But really, just thanks for watching. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait for continued immersion, continuing to go. Let's make a goal here. See if I can get to 300 hours by, May, June, July, August. If I can get there by end of August. Let's see if I can get to the 300 by the end of August. That would be fantastic. So that'll be our sort of personal goal between you and me. End of August, 300 hours to level 4. If I can do that, that'd be great. I'll put an update video then. In the meantime, I don't think I'll probably put an update video between now and then, but you may hear me speaking Spanish in some videos related to, if I go to Mi Favorita restaurant again, you might hear me speak Spanish in a video there. But if you're really into bag reviews or travel videos or interesting places to do digital nomading, then, subscribe, because it's going to be more of that kind of content than this. I think in the future, I'll do more language learning content. But right now, I think this is kind of my approach. I'm just going to take it organically, nice and easy. I'm talking too much. Let's go. I got to go somewhere. What time is it? Yeah, it's 3:15. I got to get back to my mom's place. Next video probably come up in a week or so, a week or two. depending. I'm not on like a set schedule with these videos. I'm just kind of creating content that's interesting to me, and I hope it's interesting to you. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you like my vibe, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.